Good evening and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 22, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. The crisis is unfolding every day. Some new twist, some new turn, an MLA here, an MLA there. The way things are going, it does not seem this crisis will die down anytime soon. But let us pause for a moment to reflect on the core issue here. You see, most of the MLAs camping in Guwahati say that they kept warning the leadership against what they say is an unholy alliance between the NCP Congress and the Shiv Sena, the Aghadi. That Bal Thackeray would have never approved of this. So in 2019, when Uddhav Thackeray decided to go ahead, did he actually write his political epitaph? Are the words on that political epitaph visible only now? Is this the worst crisis of his life politically? Is this the end of the road for the Thackerays in their very own Shiv Sena? Did the Pawar play, the influence of Mr. Sharad Pawar, cost him his own party? Or, picture abhi baki hai. Can he come out of this challenge? Let us put this to a debate. The Aghadi is in a huddle as Sena rebel camps grows. There is a Thackeray Sena versus a Shinde Sena, which is, this war is now pretty much out there in the open. Let me now introduce our guests. Rohit Chandavarkar, senior journalist, joining us from Maharashtra. Abhishek Mishra, BJP youth leader. Smita Prakash, editor of the ANI. Sanjana, she's a Shiv Sena spokesperson. We also have Sujata Paul, leader of the Congress party. Aman Lekhi, former ASG and senior advocate of the Supreme Court, is also with us, and more guests are going to join us as we go along. We begin with the first half of this program, which is called the First Punch, where each of you get 1 minute of time for your opening comments. So Mr. Aman Lekhi, I want to begin with you now, and you will understandably talk about the legality of this entire matter, because that's where this case is headed. Your time begins now, sir.
Well, I feel law is in repose and politics is actually active in this particular case, and all the actors here are indifferent to legal provisions and aware of the fact that the legal complications can in fact disrupt political strategy, are in some way concentrating on political strategy at the expense of law. Insofar as the issues at hand are concerned, they are not straightforward.
Rohit Chandavarkar, your opening comments.
Sanket, I fully agree with you that this is the biggest crisis, political crisis, that Uddhav Thackeray or Shiv Sena itself has experienced in its lifetime of, since it was formed in 1967. The thing is that the roots of this problem between Shiv Sena and BJP started, the rift started from 2017 itself. And we all knew that, they were going to fall apart, because Uddhav Thackeray realized that in the BMC election, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation election, BJP is now trying to take his space under the leadership of Narendra Modi, Amit Shah and others. BJP gained tremendous confidence after 2014 in Maharashtra also, and Devendra Fadnavis and others executed this plan of Shat Pratishat BJP in many municipal corporations in Maharashtra, which alarmed Uddhav Thackeray. In the 2019 polls also, Uddhav Thackeray realized that there were many attempts by BJP to ensure that Uddhav Thackerays numbers will remain less than BJP's numbers in the assembly. So the rift had started earlier. Now, this is planned, this is part 2 of the drama, where BJP wants to now totally topple Uddhav Thackeray and take control of
I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Chandavarkar, because that 1 minute time is over. Mr. Aman Lekhi, I believe, is now back with us. Yes, Mr. Lekhi, you were saying, your 1 minute.
Yes, what I was saying was that the whole scenario is rather a comedy, because what stares us in the face is that those who can actually claim disqualification are diffident. Those who can actually claim merger are also quiet. As far as the governor is concerned, is completely out of the picture. Law is a casualty. Politics is something which is being the norm of the day. The solution is being found through political machinations and scheming rather than resort to the legal mechanism which is in place to in fact deal with this particular issue. And the reason is very simple, because there won't be any easy answers to the legal issues that are being raised, and because they are more or less sure that this will entangle them into a rather long litigative process, are trying to avoid that through means which may not necessarily see the light of the day, but may involve some kind of manipulation or combinations behind the scenes to avert or avoid what is actually staring us in the face.
Okay, well timed there, Mr. Lekhi. Sanjay Gupta of the Shiv Sena is now with us. Mr. Gupta, what is your view? Is this the end of the road for Mr. Uddhav Thackeray?
नहीं नहीं, ये उद्धव जी का एंड नहीं हो सकता। ये ठीक है कि एक नाथ शिंदे जी और उनके साथ जो कुछ विधायक दिखाए जा रहे हैं, जो एक चिट्ठी उन्होंने लिखी, वो बातें सही हो सकती हैं, मगर तरीका सही नहीं हो सकता। तरीका इसका यही था जो उद्धव जी ने कहा। उद्धव जी ने कहा कि मेरे सामने आकर के बैठिए और मेरे सामने आकर बैठ करके इस बात अपनी बात को कहिए, मैं आपकी बात को मानूंगा। तो उन्हें आकर के उद्धव जी से कहना चाहिए था। किसी भी पार्टी के अंदर किसी भी तरह का मतभेद हो सकता है, किसी भी तरह की नाराजगी हो सकती है, तो उन सबको कहने का एक तरीका होता है। अगर एक नाथ शिंदे जी सभी विधायकों के साथ मिल करके उद्धव जी को बैठ करके इस बात को कहते, तो इस बात को कंसीडर किया जाता। लेकिन जिस तरह से गुवाहाटी में बैठ करके जो वीडियो बनाई गई और जिस तरह से वो दिखाई गई, उसको देख करके ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे वो जो स्क्रिप्ट है वो एक नाथ शिंदे जी की नहीं है, और वहां जो विधायक हैं वो उसके अंदर शामिल है या नहीं है, इस पे एक संदेह है। जिस तरह से वो वीडियो दिखाई गई है और जिस तरह से
समय आपका खत्म हो गया है, लेकिन मैं थोड़ा सा हैरान हूं, परेशान हूं और समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, क्योंकि अभी इससे पहले आप जितने कार्यक्रमों में आए, आपने कई बार ऐसी बात की कि ये जो अलायंस हुआ था ये अनहोली था, एनसीपी कांग्रेस के साथ नेचुरल अलायंस नहीं है, हमें बीजेपी के साथ रहना चाहिए था। आज आप वो स्क्रिप्ट में दोष निकाल रहे हैं, तो आपकी पोजीशन कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रही।
नहीं,
आप भी बिल्कुल वैसे ही हो गए कि मतलब इधर जाएं कि उधर जाएं।
नहीं, देखिए, जो ये बात आपने कही कि एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के साथ हमारा अलायंस नेचुरल नहीं है, इस बात को समय समय पर हमारी पार्टी के नेताओं ने कहा है। मनोहर जोशी जी ने भी कहा था, प्रताप सरनायक जी ने भी कहा था, और आज भी कह रहे हैं और आगे भी कहते रहेंगे, और कई बार इस बात को कहा भी जाएगा।
Both these statements are correct. Okay, we are going to debate this further. Let's take the opening comments one by one. Smita Prakash, good evening. Your opening comments.
Yeah. Hi, Sanket, I think the writing is on the wall. I mean, the desperation of the Agadi is in all its glare, and even the loyalists are playing both sides, like you just heard. I mean, Sharad Pawar is the most experienced in this tri-party coalition, and if I think he would have by now advised that the Uddhav that the game is over. I mean, nobody wants the elections right now. So if Sharad Pawar is to keep his flock together, he will advise Uddhav to call it quits. And if the Uddhav faction is in minority, he can see that for himself. I mean, the government is gone for him right now. The battle is to protect his stake in the party. And there's been a lot of talk about Bala Sahib's legacy and that he was the overpowering figure of the Shiv Sena and all that, and the Hindutva factor. But remember, he passed away in 2012. Indian politics has changed a lot, and Shiv Sena has changed a lot since then. So they are no longer the Shiv Sena of the past. They today have the legal support, whether they are sitting in Surat or in Guwahati. They have the legal support, the advice, and the logistical backup from you know where to move cautiously and cleverly in the next few days. And I would stick my neck out to say that in all probability, Shinde is going to be the 20th Chief Minister of Maharashtra a few days from now.
Okay. Sanjana, your opening comments, please.
सर, जैसे अभी यहाँ पे मैं सुन रही हूँ, एकनाथ शिंदे जी और उनकी टीम जो कह रही है कि हम शिवसेना है, तो उनको कहना ये कायदे की मजबूरी है उनके लिए। 2/3 का अगर वो क्वालिफाई कर लेते हैं, जो मैजिकल फिगर है वो उन्होंने कर लिया, ये दिख रहा है। लेकिन वी आर वेटिंग फॉर द फ्लोर टेस्ट कि वहां पे क्या होगा, और जो डर उनको भी है, इसलिए उनको हम शिवसेना है करके आगे जाना पड़ रहा है। लेकिन एक्चुअल ये जो शुरू हुआ है, ये कहीं पे एकनाथ शिंदे जी की बहुत बड़ी महत्वाकांक्षा, उनको मुख्यमंत्री बनना था या उनको शिवसेना के सभी अधिकार चाहिए थे। तो ये लड़ाई एक व्यक्ति की महत्वाकांक्षा की है जो शिवसेना के साथ चल रही है। माननीय उद्धव साहब ने मुख्यमंत्री पद का मोह छोड़ के दिखाया है, वर्षा बंगला छोड़ दिया उन्होंने, एंड ही इज रेडी टू फाइट विद दिस पीपल जिन्होंने बंडखोरी की है शिवसेना के साथ, और शिवसैनिक सभी उद्धव साहब जी के साथ है इस बैटल के लिए, एंड वी आर रेडी टू स्टार्ट करने के लिए तैयार है अभी हम।
Okay. Let me just quickly reiterate what exactly we are discussing over here. Did the 2019 Sharad Pawar games, and we are calling it Power Games, have created a situation where Uddhav is losing his own base and his own party? Sujata Paul, your views.
This is India, and regional parties, you know how they run. They run on emotions. And if there are people who run away to Surat and then to Guwahati, both BJP rule states, we know that, like one panelist didn't mention BJP, but I'm mentioning it here, it is orchestrated by the BJP, and the Shiv Sainiks are going to stand by Uddhav Thackeray, rest assured. And I'm talking about their cadres. I'm talking about the people who are part of their organization. The leaders that we are talking about, whether, you know, they had this video of Yamini Jadhav. Apparently, her properties have been attached by ED. Pratap Shah Naik, his Vidhan group of companies is under the ED scanner. Then Bhavna Gawali, her she is also under the ED scanner. So we know where it's coming from. When Eknath Shinde repeats what the BJP constantly says, that this is an unholy alliance and we should never take any post, it means that they want to be subservient to the BJP, just like the BJP wants. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly at all, the BJP seems to have disappeared from every channel, every debate at this point of time. But let me not forget the Uttarakhand crisis, which took place, earlier on, and President's rule was imposed. But when the matter went to court, things changed, and that is exactly how I look at it. And look at the change in the body language of Mr. Sanjay Raut from the first day to now, and he's become quite aggressive. And Uddhav Thackeray ji is talking to his people. So his appeal is emotional, and I'm sure the people of Maharashtra will stand by him.
Okay, Ms. Fahmida Hassan Khan, leader of the NCP, is now also with us. Thank you. Would you like to make your opening comment? Is it Mr. Sharad Pawar and the alliance which has created a situation in the Shiv Sena where they are looking at their MLAs going away, cadres split, MPs looking the other way? Is it Mr. Sharad Pawar?
देखिए, शरद पवार जी के पास में जब बीजेपी ने साथ में रह के धोखा दिया उनको, कि उन्होंने 2019 में उनको बोला था कि हम आपको 2.5 साल का मुख्यमंत्री पद देंगे, जब भी उन्होंने एकनाथ शिंदे जी का नाम शिवसेना की तरफ से आया था, क्योंकि उद्धव साहब ठाकरे कोई इलेक्शन लड़े नहीं थे, तो इसी वजह से उन्होंने इनका नाम आगे किया था। तो जो एकनाथ शिंदे जी, उनके दिमाग में यही था। उसके बाद में पवार साहब ने कहा कि आज बाला साहेब ठाकरे और पवार साहब के जो रिश्ते हैं बहुत ही मजबूत थे, वो जब तक का जिंदा थे, जब तक का उनके रिश्ते बहुत अच्छे थे। उनके बाद में ये उनके लड़के ही है, इसीलिए उद्धव साहब के लिए उन्होंने बोला कि अगर आप मुख्यमंत्री बनते हैं तो हम एनसीपी का गठबंधन करते हैं, और कांग्रेस के साथ में लेके उन्होंने ये सरकार बनाई। लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं बीजेपी को ये जो 105 आमदार चुन के आए और उसके बाद में जो उनको घर पे बैठना पड़ा, तो मुझे, और दूसरा बीजेपी का एक पहले से रवैया रहा है कि जो हिंदुत्व है वो उन्होंने लगता है कि पूरा ठेका बीजेपी के पास ही लेके रखा है। मतलब जो बीजेपी के अंदर है और जो बीजेपी के मानने वाले हैं वो ही एक हिंदुत्व को जानते हैं।
ठीक है, चलिए मैं सवाल पूछ लेता हूं, आपका 1 मिनट खत्म हो गया, लेकिन यहाँ पर बीजेपी के लोग नहीं गए हैं। यू मे अक्यूज द भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऑफ फैसिलिटेटिंग द प्रोसेस। द MLAs who are in Guwahati belong to the Shiv Sena, right? So that we must not lose that perspective. Abhishek Mishra, BJP leader Abhishek Mishra, your opening comments.
See, the point is very simple. What Eknath Shinde is mentioning again and again is that he believes in the Hindutva ideology of Bala Saheb Thackeray. You have to understand, Sanket, one simple fact. All the Shiv Sainik who are there right now in Guwahati, since the young age, they had been listening to Bala Saheb Thackeray, who was a core Hindutva. He used to say, Bhagwa Jhenda Lagla Paije Mantralaya Varti. He was a man who fought for the saffron flag, for the Hindutva values. So imagine Uddhav Thackeray, in his greed for power, forced the Shiv Sainik MLAs to tie up with NCP Congress, which were never for Hindutva, which were never for nationalism. When Balasaheb Thackeray in every speech used to say that Sharad Pawar, Sonia Gandhi are not working for nation's interest, for Hindutva interest. Imagine those MLAs have to now work for Sharad Pawar, Sonia Gandhi. So how will Eknath Shinde and his MLAs support such an unholy alliance because of the greed of Uddhav Thackeray to be chief minister? So you have to understand basically that these MLAs are fighting for their Hindutva ideology. They want to support Indian nationalism, and that is why they have.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. You see, the point is, and a question will be asked that how were they working in this alliance for the past 2.5 years, or have they suddenly discovered that this was unholy? Mr. Chandavarkar, you know, how will these MLAs who have gone there to say that we find this alliance very unholy? So 2.5 साल बाद पता चला it is unholy.
Very crucial question, and the timing is very important. Last 2.5 years, Sanket, the BJP was trying to topple the government. Maybe not entire 2.5 years, because first 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, nobody tries to topple the chief minister because he has to be given his basic period of rule. Because there was COVID period and all things slowed down. But the way the strategy for the Rajya Sabha polls was, planned by BJP and some of the elements in Shiv Sena or Congress and others, the way the strategy for council polls, the Vidhan Parishad polls in Maharashtra, in both these polls, in the first poll, Shiv Sena lost one candidate. In the second poll, Congress lost one candidate because of cross voting. So that was the signal that BJP, I think, got that this is the right time now to topple the government. It's obvious that, the whole thing is being driven by BJP. Whether they say it on record or not is, irrelevant. Everybody knows the way MLAs are being carried from one state to another, etc. The point here is that BJP was looking for the right opportunity because, these ED and IT notices have been sent to some of the MLAs who you see in Guwahati today, and also wife of the standing committee chairman of BMC is also MLA from Central Mumbai, who's also part of Eknath Shinde's team. Now, it's going to be interesting to see whether BJP asks Eknath Shinde to join BJP or continue to claim that he is the real Shiv Sena, because today evening, the NCP has come into action and they have decided to, ask the deputy speaker in the assembly to take charge and sanction some of the things that Uddhav is telling them to do. For instance, 15 MLAs are supposed to be suspended by Uddhav. That's what the Shiv Sena order says. Now, this is going to be a legal battle, either in the assembly or in the governor house.
Okay, glad you mentioned legality, because, Aman Lekhi, where's the law as far as these matters are concerned? You see, technically, all of this is in the ambit of the Vidhan Sabha, which means that in this case, the deputy speaker is key. Now, if the deputy speaker finds that a political party wants to disqualify certain people for anti-party activity, how is this legally invalid? Because Eknath Shinde says that this is legally invalid. You can't do this. It's illegal, according to him.
Well, I think all sides are using law to dupe the people. And both sides also know that what the legal provision is, and that is obvious in the way in which things are unfolding. Please see, one, it's an obvious case of disqualification, Shinde is concerned, but the disqualification was not initiated. NCP, I feel, is the reason behind, because they want to preempt any kind of rapprochement within the Shiv Sena, because I feel the real kingmaker here is the NCP. So now we have the disqualification invoked, not for legal reasons, but for political reasons. Then you have the Shinde, who is saying that, see, I am not disqualified because I have more than 37. While saying that he has more than 37 and repeating this particular fact and also showing those photographs, he chooses not to come to Maharashtra, Because what is the body which is to decide? That is going to be the speaker. That's the speaker. That is under the constitutional provision. It is the speaker. It is not for anyone to unilaterally decide this particular issue. Now, because the speaker is to decide, in this particular case, there is now an application that yes, you recall the speaker is biased. That is a preemptive action to in some way affect this particular procedure which has to actually come. In the entire scenario, we have Thackeray, who is warning people, okay, you can't have a non-Thackeray government. And in that context, what we are saying is, come to Maharashtra. Now, the coming to Maharashtra is not for the purposes of application of the law, not because of the 10th schedule, not because of the governor, not because of the speaker. That is, the Shiv Sena and NCP and also the Congress may be wanting to use the same method which the BJP is using in keeping them in Assam. So the BJP uses political power to keep them in Assam. And as far as the NCP, Shiv Sena and Congress is concerned, they want to use potentially the power to bring them to Delhi to influence. So where is law over here? Law over here is absolutely inert, a passive spectator. Because what is happening here is just bare politics. Politicking what is happening. Law will come at the end, fag end. When the politicking will fail, at that point of time as the last resort, law will come. Because there was adequate opportunity for both sides to invoke the law in the first instance, which chose not to do, because both sides know that insofar as the respective cases is concerned, there is a possibility of the legal case being weak. So the question of law is actually just watching rather quietly the scenario, and it is wanting to be involved in it, but kept out of the whole picture altogether.
Well, I don't know how the meeting between Smita, Mr. Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray on Friday, a very long meeting, should be seen. Should this be read in the ambit of politics or in the ambit of law, or both?
I think both.
Is that question to me?
I mean,
in
hindsight, it's always 2020, right? But it's now look at it. Like they knew, they should have known that something like this is going to happen. It's a coalition, a wobbly coalition in the first place. They should have had a speaker in place. They don't have one. Now there is a no confidence motion against the deputy speaker. All the action is now going to move to the legislature, right? Not so far, not to the courts, but to the legislature. Courts, it moves if there is a vertical split in the Shiv Sena, right? It will move next week towards, all the action will move towards the legislature. Once it moves to the legislature, it remains to be seen whether the person taking all the decisions will be Sharad Pawar. Yes, because Sharad Pawar has more experience. But how come Pawar and Uddhav couldn't see, and Congress of course, couldn't see that, didn't have a slightest of inkling that a rebellion was brewing? Forget about disqualification. That's now at this stage they are talking about disqualification, and that also not completely, because they give an olive branch and then they talk about disqualification. Sanjay Raut says something else, Pawar says something else, Uddhav gives an emotional statement. So mixed signals coming from the Agadi. But anyway, anyone who lives in Mumbai, Sanket will tell you that the momentum had been building for over 6 months. The Thackeray's were watching the implosion in the Congress happening in Delhi and thinking it won't happen to them. How can they be that confident? I mean, Uddhav and Aditya had just too much faith and hope resting on this Chanakya prowess of Sharad Pawar. With due respect to Mr. Pawar, he's been a Chanakya, he's been a has-been Chanakya of late. 2019 was last we saw.
Ms. Smita Prakash, just the Chanakya of Sharad Pawar, or the sort of confidence that they had that Shiv Sena is a cadre party. It will never look beyond a Thackeray. Was it too much self-confidence or too much faith in Sharad Pawar?
That I agree. No, that I totally agree, that rebellion sits very, very uncomfortable with Shiv Sainiks. They would still rather have a Thackeray in their leadership role. Even if Shinde becomes chief minister, he will constantly be looking over his shoulder, because none of the Shiv Sainiks, even with him, are comfortable not having Uddhav and Aditya with them. And Uddhav and Aditya also. After all, what is Shiv Sena without the Thackeray's, and what are Thackeray's without without the Shiv Sena. They really are more interlinked than the Gandhis with the Congress. Let me be honest in this.
Okay.
It was possible for Narasimha Rao to run a government or Manmohan Singh to run a government, but I really wonder how Shinde will do this if Uddhav is going to cause a split in the party.
ओके ओके संजय गुप्ता, आपके लिए ज्यादा बड़ी चीज क्या है, ज्यादा बड़ी चुनौती क्या है? पार्टी बचा लें या सरकार बचा लें? आइडियली यू वुड वांट टू डू बोथ।
तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि सबसे पहली बात तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि पार्टी बनाने का फार्मूला अलग होता है और सरकार बनाने का फार्मूला अलग होता है। सरकारें बनाने और गिराने का काम विधायक कर सकते हैं, मगर पार्टी को बनाने और उसके चीफ को बदलने का काम ये पार्टी के फाउंडर मेंबर करते हैं। ये काम कोई विधायक नहीं करा करते कि जिस तरह के लेटर को, जिस तरह के पत्र को कह करके एक नाथ शिंदे जी या कुछ लोग,
whatever the MLAs, विधायक कुछ भी तय कर लें, वो किसी भी पार्टी में चले जाएं, आज की डेट में जिस तरीके का संख्या बल गिना रहे हैं, they have 50. You add that to the 106 of the BJP, clearly they can form a government. But you are saying they will not become
सरकार बनाने गिराने में हाँ यस, सरकार को गिराने बनाने में MLAs काम कर सकते हैं, मगर किसी पार्टी को
नहीं गिरा सकते।
बनाने और गिराने का काम, पार्टी को बनाने, पार्टी के चीफ को बदलने का काम उसके फाउंडर मेंबर करा करते हैं, विधायक नहीं करा करते। ये विधायकों के इख्तियार में नहीं आता। अगर विधायकों के इख्तियार में इस तरह से आता होता।
I'm just wondering what if Mr. Uddhav Thackeray tells Sharad Pawar and the other constituents of the Aghadi that, actually I want to follow what my leaders are saying. My party feels that I should be true to my ideology, that we have been with the BJP for a very long time. So I think I should follow what my party is saying and go back to the BJP. Then what will happen?
Sanket, one of the biggest problems...
in Maharashtra politics, expect the unknown. Who thought that these three will get together? Who knows this may happen?
Yeah, Sanket, one of the biggest problems with Uddhav Thackeray and the overall Thackeray clan is that they are very inaccessible to, even their MLAs. Most of their MPs, they have 18 MPs in Lok Sabha today, but apart from 3 or 4, you would not see any of the MPs. In that sense, they are very similar to Gandhis. They are very inaccessible. They don't meet. They don't take phone calls. I'm hearing, from sources in the NCP, I'm hearing that there were occasions in the last 5-6 months where Uddhav Thackeray refused to take Sharad Pawar's phone calls. Can you believe this? This is the truth, inside thing that I'm telling you.
And now they're meeting.
So the running joke in the political circles is that till now, CM was unreachable, constantly unreachable, and now Shiv Sena's MLAs are unreachable, right? I mean, that's what people in the Sena also are saying and NCP is also saying. The problem here is that their ambition to retain control over party through family, super promotions being given to Aditya Thackeray, him being put, in charge of many things where senior party workers felt like Eknath Shinde felt that, they were sidelined. All things have, finally culminated in this. I think it's a combination of everything.
But the larger point over here is, can you have a Thackeray Mukt Shiv Sena? Is it possible?
That's a $1 million question, and frankly, to tell you and your viewers, I don't. Nobody knows the answer to that, because in the past, similar things have happened.
But you still maintain government will fall, as you have been saying.
Government is going to fall. Government is going to fall. Sharad Pawar will try his best to save this government. Sharad Pawar and Thackeray have got together. Another piece of advice is, if for your Mumbai viewers, is that they should work from home in the next few days, maybe.
Why? Why so?
This because I can sense that there is going to be a lot of activity on the roads of Mumbai.
Okay, when you mean activity,
there is the latest news that I'm hearing is that Mumbai police have been. Exactly. I'm hearing that Mumbai police have been put on high alert. The day Eknath Shinde returns to Mumbai with his clan, there's going to be major action on streets of Mumbai. My advice to people would be, to your viewers, would be to take care of their cars and their property and their shops. I'm a little serious about this. there's going to be a lot of action on the streets.
In fact, if you look at the screen right now, there is anti-rebel action happening even now. Sanjana, I want to come to you now. You know, so far there was absolutely no protest on the ground, none whatsoever, giving the impression that perhaps the cadre of the Shiv Sena is also with the MLAs. Now, for the past few days, starting with Mr. Sanjay Raut's threatening interview, where he says, "Aoge to Mumbai, you will come back to Maharashtra." He's threatening his own MLAs. So, are we to expect that some sort of an orchestrated anger will be seen on the streets against your own MLAs?
शिवसेना ये एक पार्टी, ये कौन से विचारों से चलती है, किस तरह से चलती है, आपको सब महाराष्ट्र ने, मुंबई ने देखा हुआ है. तो डेफिनेटली शिवसैनिकों के मन में इसके बारे में बहुत ज्यादा चिढ़ है, उनके अंदर संताप है कि हमारे लोगों ने ऐसा हमारे साथ क्यों किया है.
नहीं, पहले ये 2-3 दिन तो नहीं दिखी थी ना. We didn't spot this on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
अभी आपने देखा नहीं है, ये हो रहा है. उस वक्त तक, गए 3 दिन तक संजय राउत जी बता रहे थे हमारे कॉन्टेक्ट में एमएलए है, एमएलए उनसे हमारी बात शुरू है. सो फ्लोर टेस्ट में क्या होगा इसके बारे में शिवसेना
की लोग. Sanjana, here the question is that if Mr. Sanjay Raut, who is an MP of Shiv Sena, very openly threatens in an interview to NDTV where he says सड़क पे चलना मुश्किल हो जाएगा.
सर, अगर वो यहाँ पे आएंगे तो शिवसैनिक क्या करेंगे ये कोई नहीं कह सकता. जिस तरह से इसके पहले का ये है वो आपने देखा हुआ है. और गद्दारांना क्षमा नाही हे बाळासाहेब ठाकरेंनी आम्हाला शिकवलेलं आहे. त्याच्यामुळे
I think we are getting a clear sense, Mr. Chandavarkar, of what can transpire or what can happen on the streets, and I'm just saying that this is going to be absolutely tragic. If that is the response, shocking. You know, questions will be asked the questions should be asked of Mr. Uddhav Thackeray. If there is violence,
10 seconds. I'll take
then
10
it
seconds.
is his failing.
I'll take 10 seconds. I believe in the professionalism of Mumbai Police. I have, followed followed Mumbai Police, and I have covered Mumbai Police activities, etc. for 20 years. I believe in their professionalism. I am sure things will be in control. Let's not spread panic.
Let's not do that. Absolutely.
But the thing is, people have to be cautious. But people have to be cautious, and I'm just saying that these things are likely to happen. These things are likely to happen.
He will also not like कि ऐसा कुछ हो. ये भी बात नहीं बता रही.
Nobody will want this. But if push comes to shove, is that what is going to happen? Is that how, in the words of Sanjay Raut, the Shiv Sena is going to rise like the phoenix?
I think there is
that how will you make?
I think there are going to be major agitations on streets of Mumbai and some of the other cities in Maharashtra when Eknath Shinde returns to Maharashtra with his MLAs.
Freudian slip.
There is
Eknath Thackeray.
There's going to be there's
not just yet.
But it was inadvertent, totally inadvertent. There is going to be major action on the streets. That's how Shiv Sena functions. It's a party that runs on emotions. They will be out to show their strength. It is all out on the streets.
Sure.
Agitations will happen. Rail roko, such things will happen. People just should be prepared for that. I'm not spreading any panic.
No, but let's not spread panic, but at the same time, it will be so tragic. And is that how a sense of fear will be instilled in the minds of those MLAs who are luxuriating in Guwahati, ensconced in the comfort of that 5-star hotel?
Yes.
Enjoying the amazing privileges. Yes, Smita Prakash, very quickly, and then Sujata Paul.
Can I come in? Yeah, Sanket, I think it's perfectly articulated by the speaker before me that this is the fear, and that is why I don't see this continuing for more than 48 hours to a little more than that probably. Maybe by Monday or Tuesday this would have to end, because Shinde himself knows that he cannot keep those people indefinitely in Guwahati because their families are back home. They are the ones. See, in Guwahati, the security can be provided, but those people, those MLAs have family back home. They have to be safe and secure. Their property has to be safe and secure, and he cannot risk this. So whatever happens, what's going to happen is that those people, those MLAs will be transported directly to the legislature. So this will probably happen only on Monday or Tuesday, that they will be transported to the Legislative Assembly, and that is where the action will happen, and it has to happen quickly, so that there is no violence on the street, and everybody knows, like you said, that it is an emotive party and nobody wants street violence to happen. So if at all there is going to be any of this, it has to be done in the floor of the House.
While you're saying
not
all
imposed,
action
not on
will
the
happen on the
streets.
floor of the House, you see, the thing is, Sujata Paul, there is a concept which is often used in the United States, which is called filibustering, which essentially means that when you want to prolong something in parliamentary procedure so much that that bill dies a natural death, you discuss it ad nauseum, discuss it so much over and over again. We have seen this happen in many floor tests, where there are speaker after speaker speaking for 4 hours, 5 hours, and then after 3, 4, 5 days there is that floor test. So which means that for those 3, 4, 5 days, while this filibustering is happening, there will be pressure. These MLAs will eventually come to Maharashtra. Is that the strategy?
Exactly. This looks like a potboiler, but it is actually a game of chess which seems to be unfolding. If you see the moves that are being made by the Shiv Sena in Mumbai and Eknath Shinde and his people, it is very clear that this matter is going to be discussed on the floor of the House. After that, it's going to go to the court also, because there's that February 2007 judgment, according to which it's not just the 10th schedule or only 2/3 of the MLAs who are required for defection. It is also a split in the main party, which is what is being tried very hard by Eknath Shinde when he says that, no, I am the original Shiv Sena. Secondly, if you look at the deputy speaker, how, questioning him, I don't know, Mr. Aman Lekhi would know better, because how do you question a tribunal? And he is in the position of a tribunal if there's a no confidence motion being moved against him. So these are things which will carry on for a long time. And I think nobody knows BJP better than the Shiv Sena, and they will make sure that their strategy works slowly, steadily, till matters die down. And when people come face to face with their constituents, what do the constituents want? Your ED might be pressurizing you, but what do your constituents want? And this will be the pressure on these people when they return.
I just want to understand, are all these, Nalin Mehta is also with us, author of the book The New BJP, has written a fantastic piece today where he calls this the big challenge for Uddhav Thackeray. Nalin, good to have you on the show. I'll just come to you in just a short moment. But Mr. Abhishek Mishra, I want to come to you now. You heard Mr. Lekhi just a short while ago, who was saying that this is a classic case where law is not even in the picture right now. It's pure politics. BJP is politics in a resort in Guwahati, and then the Aghadi politics saying, come back. Eventually you will have to come back. How long will you stay in that resort?
See, Sanket, is very clear. BJP had nothing to do with this. Our state Maharashtra BJP president, Mr. Chandrakant Patil,
come on, who will
has
believe
clearly
you?
mentioned today.
Abhishek, come
Sanket,
on.
let me complete, Sanket. Let me complete. Then you can rebut me. Chandrakant Patil ji,
Guess
BJP
in
state
Surat,
president, has
guess
clearly
in Guwahati,
said
and you say BJP has nothing to do with it.
nothing
By
to
the
do
way,
with this.
BJP is very
See,
happily giving us
Sanket,
information also.
Let me complete, Sanket. It is purely an internal matter of the Shiv Sena. This is the clear stand of BJP.
Really? Who will believe
Shiv
you?
Sena, Eknath Shinde. 1 second. Eknath Shinde and all the MLAs with him, they have clearly said, we follow the ideology of Balasaheb Thackeray, who stood for the saffron flag,
Abhishek ji,
who stood for
can
the
I tell
Hindutva
you,
ideology.
it's very
And 1
recent
second,
public
let
memory.
me complete,
In
Sanket,
very
let me
recent
complete.
public memory. No,
Eknath
I want to
Shinde
just
has
want to
clearly
contest
said
this point that you have said that
his
BJP has nothing to do with
ideology.
it.
He wants
Abhishek
to
ji,
follow the path
BJP
of
has
Balasaheb
everything to do
Thackeray.
with it. In Surat,
Till
BJP
Balasaheb
leaders were
Thackeray
present
was
at the
alive,
resort.
Shiv Sena aligned
In
with
Guwahati,
BJP.
the chief
Okay,
minister
Sanket,
went and met these
biggest
people.
proof is, Sanket, let me complete. You allowed everyone to speak. You did not interrupt, only interrupting me. Till Balasaheb Thackeray was alive, Shiv Sena only allied with BJP. It was the greed of Uddhav Thackeray to become chief minister that he forced his MLAs. And you were asking what they were doing for 2.5 years. I will tell you. All the MLAs were requesting Uddhavji that please you go with BJP. Please align with BJP. Please, from young age we have been following the saffron flag, the Hindutva ideology. Uddhav Thackeray said, "Nahi, you go with we'll go with the secular parties. We'll go with Sonia Gandhi, Sharad Pawar." Balasaheb Thackeray, every speech, please remove his recording, used to say, "Never trust Sharad Pawar, never trust Sonia Gandhi." And his MLAs were tortured. That is why they said, "We will rebel." They were forced to rebel. They were forced to rebel.
Abhishek, one more. Now you have had your say. The fact that you have made such a passionate appeal on behalf of the Shiv Sena MLAs, the warring faction, you know, in invoking Bal Thackeray, and then you say BJP has nothing to do with it. You know, nobody will believe you.
I'm saying
No.
it is an internal matter.
There were
Shiv
BJP
Sena due to
leaders
the
in the
ideological
Surat resort.
differences.
There was
I'm
the
saying it
Chief
is an
Minister of
internal
Assam
matter.
himself
I'm saying
in
it's an
Guwahati.
internal matter of Shiv Sena due to ideological differences because Eknath Shinde believes in Balasaheb Thackeray ideology and
Sure.
Uddhav Thackeray believes in Sharad Pawar ideology.
Okay,
So
Nalin,
that is
Dr.
the internal matter.
Nalin Mehta.
BJP nothing to do with this.
Dr. Nalin Mehta, I want to come to you now and I want to ask you, why do you feel that this is a challenge with a difference, unlike any other for Uddhav Thackeray?
So there have been rebellions in the Shiv Sena before, Sanket. There have been 3 before, 1991, Chhagan Bhujbal, when he left and formed the Shiv Sena B, short-lived. Most of the legislators came back very quickly. Narayan Rane, 2005, when he left, and he was the second chief minister of the Shiv Sena, now with the BJP. After that, Raj Thackeray. See, the difference, the difference primarily between previous crises and this one is that those occurred in an era of an older, more benign BJP of the Vajpayee and Advani era, where the Shiv Sena was the dominant player in the alliance in Maharashtra for over 3 decades. The BJP was very much the junior partner and happy to be the junior partner. What's happened is that from about in 2009 was the first election in which BJP gets 1 seat more than the Shiv Sena. Always for a 30-year period before that, from 1990 to 2004, the Shiv Sena would get about 10 to 11 seats more, roughly. They were always ahead. The vote share difference was 4 to 6% in favor of the Shiv Sena. What happened was that Modi and Shah, in that period, the period of what I call the new BJP from 2014, they decided to change the equation and decided to become the dominant partner. Uddhav Thackeray saw the writing on the wall after Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, and he separated from the alliance, and they fought separately. The BJP won almost roughly about double the seats of the Shiv Sena. The same thing happened in 2019. So you now have a BJP which wins roughly about double the number of seats that the Shiv Sena wins in Maharashtra. It wants to be the dominant player, and therefore provides succor. In previous rebellions, when people left, they wouldn't get succor from outside. Here, you have a very aggressive, very expansionist BJP, which is very happy to play this game and is encouraging that game. So that's why this is a different order of political crisis. It's not the palimpsest on which Maharashtra politics is played. That has changed.
Very interesting. So where does this leave? So basically you're saying that the Bharatiya Janata Party has, Mr. Mishra will not like hearing this, would love a situation where the Shiv Sena is weakened further and more MLAs break away, and then there is a very diminished Uddhav Thackeray left.
अभी कुछ नहीं कहा जा सकता.
Look, what the point I'm trying to make is, whichever way this crisis plays out, what you are seeing is, ultimately the Shiv Sena was fashioned in the crucible of Hindutva, right? The BJP is also Hindutva party. There was an equilibrium between the two parties where the BJP was the junior partner, Shiv Sena was the bigger partner, Maharashtra was Shiv Sena's territory. Yes. What has happened now is that BJP wants to be the primary Hindutva party in Maharashtra. They're very clear about it.
हिंदुत्व के मुद्दे पर देश में मजबूत सरकार बीजेपी की बन तो गई है अब 30 साल के सैक्रिफाइस के बाद.
क्या कह रहे हैं संजय गुप्ता जी, जल्दी से?
30 साल के सैक्रिफाइस से 30 साल का सैक्रिफाइस जो शिवसेना ने किया, आज हिंदुत्व के मुद्दे पर लोकसभा में भी और राज्यसभा में भी बीजेपी का पूर्ण बहुमत है. उन सभी मुद्दों को सैक्रिफाइस यही किया.
What have you sacrificed?
सैक्रिफाइस यही कि पूरे देश के अंदर शिवसेना एमपी का चुनाव लड़ सकती थी, पूरे देश के अंदर शिवसेना चुनाव लड़ सकती थी, मगर शिवसेना ने हमेशा बीजेपी को आगे रखा कि देश के अंदर बीजेपी की सरकार बने.
बीजेपी टू ग्रो, who will believe you? Again, there is a very escapist, sort of an argument, Mr. Sanjay Gupta?
कौन नहीं जानता था बाबरी मस्जिद को गिराने के बाद जिस तरह से शिवसेना का आधार था, उस वक्त अगर शिवसेना पूरे देश में लड़ती तो सारे देश में आज ना जाने शिवसेना की कितनी सीटें होती। लेकिन इस मुद्दे पर हमने बीजेपी को हमेशा आगे रखा, लेकिन अब बंद तो गई बीजेपी की सरकार। कौन सा ऐसा मुद्दा है हिंदुत्व का जिसको कि बीजेपी आज नहीं कर सकती? क्या इस देश का तिरंगे झंडे की जगह भगवा झंडा बीजेपी नहीं कर सकती? क्या आज जितने ही मंदिरों के ऊपर मस्जिदें बनी हुई हैं, क्या उन सबको गिराने का आदेश फरमान जारी नहीं कर सकती? क्या जितने ही मस्जिदों के ऊपर लाउडस्पीकर की बात है पूरे देश के अंदर उसको हटाने के लिए
No, one moment, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, I'm afraid I cannot
नोटिफिकेशन जारी नहीं कर सकती।
I cannot allow you to say all the stuff that you are saying.
नहीं, क्या बोल रहे हैं?
You have taken it to a
सभी कामों को आज
completely
बीजेपी कर
different level.
सकती है।
I don't know what you are talking, so we are going to stop this here because I have very limited time and very, proper focus. I don't want to lose that focus. Very quickly, Mr. Aman Lekhi, again, I know you are saying that the politics has taken over and the law will eventually come in, but obviously legality is now being spoken about. Do you, Mr. Aman Lekhi, feel that this matter will eventually land up in the courts? The matter of disqualification, if it happens, the matter of MLAs moving away in a block and forming their own?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it raises many questions, very interesting legal questions. It will be a fascinating court hearing. And lawyers will be very happy, of course, and looking at the options available and the arguments can be advanced. What it actually shows is a maligned activity outside a prescribed system where morals or principles have got absolutely no play. And law becomes a gizmo in the hands of the politicians to basically suit their political ends, which is a very sorry state of affairs, because the very fact that it was prolonged and protracted in this particular manner when it could have ended if supposing law was actually invoked, itself shows that law is not the interest of either side. And what they are actually concerned is the political settlement, which may not necessarily be on the right side of law, but would nevertheless suit the political objectives of the contesting parties.
No, specifically on the point of disqualification right now, you see the immediate thing that will happen is if the deputy speaker decides that fine, this is the application of the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction, let's disqualify X number of MLAs. Legally, how can this be challenged? Because Eknath Shinde is saying this is illegal.
Yes, of course. Of course, it will be challenged. In fact, the basis of that particular channel has already been laid because they are already alleging bias. Now, one of the ways in which the decision will be challenged would be that the speaker was predisposed to deciding against them. That's the reason why this particular application is moved. So, the fact that the speaker can decide, in fact, the speaker coming to the picture is obviously a ploy on the part of the NCP, which was till now quiet, but actually now sees it has to be actively involved, because the biggest loser in this particular case would actually be the NCP, because the NCP is the beneficiary of this particular arrangement. But that apart, that's the politics. But nevertheless, whatever decision is taken will be challenged before the court, and basis for the particular channel is already being made. Whether this qualification actually holds, I don't understand from where this figure of 16 comes. I don't understand why this procedure did not start against Shinde in the beginning. What is lost is what happens in the beginning cannot in any way be affected by what follows, and mainly because the numbers as swelled will not any detract from the fact that Shinde had actually given up the membership. But what stares us in the face and defies the explanation is no attempt was made to proceed against him. And why 16 only? And what is the reason why is one question, and so far the others are concerned, why in Assam only?
Correct.
Yes, why in Assam only? So these are all issues which arise. The question would be eventually settled by the court, because that has to be settled by the court.
Correct.
What the deputy speaker would do is also settled here. The Supreme Court has failed us twice. One, the Supreme Court did not in any way set down, and it had the opportunity to declare that the speaker should decide in a time-bound manner, because the speaker may sit on it. This is the first problem. The Supreme Court failed us again, because when a prayer was made that there has to be a habeas corpus or access should be made to those who are actually confined, the Supreme Court had actually taken its hands off and said no. If suppose the Supreme Court had said something, perhaps he had a better norm to deal with the present crisis.
Sure. Okay. Very quickly, because I'm running out of time, Nalin Mehta, you raised your hand.
Sanket, I wanted to make a point that the legalese will take a while to, the legalese is complex and it'll take a little bit of time, but I wanted to make a larger point. The larger ramification of this beyond Maharashtra and beyond the BJP and Shiv Sena equation and how that unfolds also is, this is the first time that we are seeing a revolt on this scale against the founding party, against the founding family of a regional party. The closest parallel to this is when Chandrababu Naidu took over the TDP from from NTR. So in that sense, if Eknath Shinde and his faction become the original Shiv Sena, leaving the founding family out in the cold, that is a very major tectonic shift in politics. If that does happen,
the only thing is whether that will happen or not. Thank you very much. We are all preparing ourselves for the big fight, and let's just hope, as Mr. Chandavarkar said, let's just hope that it is not a non-violent or a non-lethal form of fight. Till then, it's fine. It can be tackled. Thank you very much. Stopping for a short break at this moment. Before we do that, some comments on the Coup app. There's this comment which says Uddhav still has an option to save his party. He just has to join hands with the BJP. It's the view of Surya Jain. Uddhav's decision to become CM in 2019 cost his party today. That is a comment by Tushar Khanna. Lots of comments coming in because this story is developing. Thank you very much for watching this edition of The Big Fight. Good night and good night.